Oh, there, that's better.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, John.
Hey, I noticed when people are speaking, they're on a full screen. Is that something new?
Like the screen goes to them and
Yes.
I don't think it is, but I would defer to Marty.
Um,
Or is it a choice? Is it a choice that you influence on your own Zoom window?
I think you guys can adjust your own Zoom windows.
Yeah.
I always have you in gallery view.
So
Yeah,
John, you can do that. If you go up to the corner there, the right corner of your screen, you'll see like a bunch of little dots that are
yeah.
in a square. Click
Yeah.
that, and then you'll see us all in gallery view.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you go back up there, it says speaker view. Go back up to where it was before because you don't have the little dots, the little squares anymore.
Okay. Speaker view.
Click, yeah, and then go back and then it'll be in speaker view. But that I think that the webinar, that's what you're going to see. But I think that the webinar, when it's on YouTube and on eScribe, actually has gallery view because I think Marty sets that.
So I must have hit something. Because even last Wednesday or last Monday, it seemed like anytime somebody spoke, they were on the full screen.
Yeah, that's speaker view. If you want to
Okay.
see everybody, you can change to gallery.
Wow.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
I've learned something. Thank you.
No citizens yet. All right, I'm sharing the screen with the PowerPoint. Here we go. So for folks who are watching on television, if you want to join the webinar tonight, or if you're watching on YouTube and you want to look at the agenda or in related documents, you can go to the city's webpage. This is the direct link to that. Or you can just go to the city's webpage and hit that meetings button and find City Council on the page. You can, there's a join the webinar button or link on the agenda for tonight. And if you want to give public comment and you're on a webinar, you can click participants, raise or lower your hand. There's a little button down there at the bottom of your participant window. And if you're joining us by phone, you can press 9 to raise your hand or 9 again to lower. As always, you can call the City Council and leave a voicemail. And that number is 406-552-6012. Or you can email them at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. Here's that URL again. And some information about how to give public comment.
Thank you, Marty. I'm out of practice on Monday night. Do you want me to repeat that information at the beginning of the meeting as well? Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks. Okay, Marty, are we ready to go?
I am, thanks.
Thank you. Just checking on colleagues. I haven't seen Miss Armstrong or West yet, but I believe they will be joining us. So, good evening, everyone. I will call to order Missoula City Council for today, Monday, December 14th, 2020. It's our last council meeting of the calendar year. I'll be pinch hitting for the mayor this evening. We continue to meet virtually. And Marty, do you want to put up our instructions? Thank you. So as always, you can find the agenda and related documents at the city's website at the address there, www.ci.missoula.mt.us/webcasts. And we have a number of ways for folks to participate once they're in the meeting. And if you go to the next slide. If you're on a computer or laptop while you're in the webinar, you can raise or lower your hand. If you're on an iPhone or Android, you can use the instructions there, but to Zoom, click more to raise or lower your hand. And dial-in participants via a phone can use *9 to raise and lower their hand. And as always, we have a council voicemail number where we can take public comment at any time, not just during this meeting, at 406-552-6012. And we have our council email, council@ci.missoula.mt.us. Thank you for that. And I want to begin the meeting actually by saying a special thank you to the folks at MCAT, Joel et al., for getting us out to the public this evening. That was no small feat, given some challenges, and just wanted to thank all the folks at MCAT. So our first item is roll. We have all council members. Not sure. Oh, yep. All council members are present. Thank you. And as I said, I will be pinch hitting for the mayor this evening. Next item is approval of minutes. We have minutes from the August 3rd and the August 10th meeting. Are there any changes to those minutes? And seeing no hands, those will stand approved. Our next item is our schedule of committee meetings for the week of December 14th. Ms. Rabine.
This, as President von Lossberg indicated, this is our last city council meeting of the year. City council committees will meet this Wednesday, December 16th, and the Land Use and Planning Committee will start us off at 10 o'clock in the morning and go till 10:30. Public Works Committee will follow that from 10:45 to 11:45. The Parks and Conservation Committee meets from 12:15 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the Administration and Finance Committee meets from 2:15 in the afternoon to 2:45. Just like this city council meeting, all of those meetings are being held as Zoom webinars. You can go to the city's public meeting portal on our website. Go to the City of Missoula, and in the middle of the page there's a button that says meetings. If you click that, you'll be able to see all the agendas for these committee meetings. And on the top of each of those agendas is the join link for the webinar and other ways to participate in this meeting if you need to do it by phone or whatever. And just a note for folks who are watching tonight that City Council will not be meeting for the next 2 Mondays in a row. That's the 21st and the 28th. Our next meeting will be in 2021. So we'll see you next year.
Thank you, Marty. Next item on our agenda is public comment. This is for public comment on items that are not elsewhere on the agenda. And I'm happy to take public comment from anyone attending the meeting this evening. If you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, that would be great. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? I am not seeing any, so we will move on to our consent agenda. Making sure I'm not muted. I am not. Items on the consent agenda were approved in city council committees to be placed on the consent agenda to save time at council meetings by voting on them as a package. City clerk will read the list aloud so citizens watching on MCAT will know what is on the consent agenda, and we will invite community comment on these items before we vote. And with that, Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. Tonight's consent agenda has 9 items. And the first one is to approve claims, which are the city's accounts payable. This week, the city council is being asked to approve claims in the amount of $6,089,016.02 for checks that are dated tomorrow, December 13th, 2020. Number 2 is to award and authorize the mayor to sign the purchase agreement with Power Service of Montana to purchase an Atlas Copco rotary screw air compressor for an amount not to exceed $28,500. Number 3 is to adopt a resolution in accordance with section 7-5-4308 of Montana Code Annotated. That's state law. It's the state law's procedure to modify municipal contracts, and council is being asked to approve change order number 1 to the contract between D. Lauer Construction and the city of Missoula to address secure access to City Hall. Number 4 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a construction agreement with Treasure State Tree Service for vegetation removal along Clark Fork levees number 3 and number 5 for an amount not to exceed $117,300. Number 5 is to accept a donation of land from Clark Fork Commons Incorporated, generally located adjacent to the Shady Grove segment of the Ron McDonald River Trail, and approve and authorize the mayor to sign the deed for the land and record it with the Missoula County Clerk Recorder in the name of the city of Missoula. Number 6 is to appoint the following people to the Historic Preservation Commission. We're appointing Jamie Lockman as an at-large member, James McDonald as a professional member, Steve Adler as a professional member, and those folks' term will begin January 1st, 2021 through December 31st of 2023. And Patrick Swart as alternate number 1 and Leif Erickson at large for terms beginning on January 1st, 2021 through December 31st of 2022. Number 7 is to appoint Lisa Smith and Mary Sansala to the Animal Control Board for terms that begin on January 1st, 2021 and ending on December 31st of 2023. Number 8 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the 2020 contract agreement for services between the city of Missoula and the Corporation for Supportive Housing for technical assistance. And number 9, the last one, is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign an energy services master contract and investment grade audit phase 1 addendum with McKinstry Ascension LLC.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to public comment and then we'll go to council. I see a couple hands there. Is there any public comment on any of the consent agenda items? If you're an attendee, please feel free to raise your hand and happy to go to you for comment. Not seeing any public comment on the consent agenda. I'll go to council colleagues. Ms. Vasika.
Thank you. I would like to separate 5.4, vote on that separately due to the my dissatisfaction with the bid selection process.
Okay, item 5.4, correct, Ms. Vasika?
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I wanted to speak briefly to items 5.8 and 5.9. Both of these items were in the Administration and Finance Committee this last Wednesday, and they were passed unanimously. I just wanted to highlight what they were because I think this is important to communicate to our community. some of the things that are going on that are really good. 5.8 is the contract for the Corporation for Supportive Housing Missoula 2020 proposal. And to translate that, last summer as part of our budget process, we allocated money to go towards facilitating the navigation center at the Trinity development, which will be built out on Broadway. This money is basically going to go to create the structures so that we set up the services within that development to help those people who are going to be using that place, to help them with housing, help them with employment, help them with counseling, whatever social services needs that they need to be able to get where they're going to eventually. And that's the point of this whole project. And what's lovely about this is that this contract with the Supportive Housing Corporation is they will help us create those structures, but also help us create the means so that they will be self-sustaining in the long run. How to bill Medicaid, what other benefits are out there, so that basically this will pay for itself in the long run to have these services. So that's just a win-win, and I wanted to highlight that. The second item is 5.9, the Energy Services Master Contract and Investment Grade Audit with McKinstry. This is something where we're having a local Montana business come into our city buildings, do a full energy audit, and tell us if you do A, B, C, and D, your building's going to be more efficient, and it's tied to the savings we will get from those energy savings will go to pay for this service and pay for the improvements. So it's, again, a complete win-win situation in my mind, and it's much better for our ongoing climate action plan in the long run to be more energy efficient. And those are really good things that are happening. So I just wanted to communicate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Merritt.
Thanks. Thanks for highlighting those items, Gwen. I appreciate that. I just wanted to speak briefly to item 5.4. I understand Ms. Vasica's dissatisfaction with the procurement process that was used there, but I want it to be clear for the record that staff and everyone followed absolutely all of the rules in that procurement process. In this case, they chose to use the request for proposal process so that we could get the best contractor, not just the cheapest job done. So that the removal of vegetation along the levees is something that a lot of people are very sensitive to. And I think it's very important, and I'm thankful for the time and effort that the staff took to go through that request for proposal process and evaluate which contractor was actually going to do the best job for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. West.
I also just wanted to briefly speak to items 5.8 and 5.9, which are the consent agenda items about the supportive housing and the energy audit. I think that both of these items deserve a giant thank you to staff and community partners that have been working on these for a really long time. Progress is slow, and the fact that we have gotten to this point, I think, is monumental and really is worthy of thanks and recognition. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Vasica.
Thanks. We did discuss this on Wednesday, and one of the main things that I was unhappy about was we were spending extra money to save time for the commuter trail. I understand that a lot of folks do use those trails to commute to their work and to their pleasure and whatever they do during the day. But during this time when everyone's saving money and having to cut a lot of costs, I figured that the city should show some effort in that as well as cutting some costs to save, even though it'll take up a little bit of time, but we should be able to do that as well. That was my main problem with it. So just so the public will know.
Okay, not seeing any additional council questions or comments. I want to just quickly add my thanks to Ms. Jones and Ms. West for highlighting the two items they did. They're monumentally important, wonderful investments in the community. And as Heidi said, thanks very much for the staff and partners for the work on that front. And with that, we've taken public comment on the consent agenda, had council comment, and we will go to a roll call vote on, Marty, do you want to do items all but 5.4 or however you would like to do it?
Oh, I like to do the whole consent agenda except for 5.4 first, and then we'll do 5.4. How's that?
Let it be so.
Alrighty. And so on items 1 through 3 and 5 through 9, Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yeah.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
and Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
and Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
And would any of you like to change your vote? That is 12 ayes.
And on item 5.4.
On item 5.4, hang on, just let my screen refresh here. Oh, additional editing required. Hang on just a second.
We were on a roll, Marty.
I know we were. Something has happened to my list of you to vote from. So here we go. Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Ramos,
No.
Cheryl.
Yes.
I think I missed Merritt.
Yes.
Vasika,
No.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Did I get everybody? That was from memory. All right.
Did.
All right. That's 9 ayes and 3 nays.
Was it 3 nays or 2 nays?
I think you're right. It was 2 because John voted yes.
Yes, I'm seeing multiple finger confirmation. So,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have no items under comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, and community forum. We do have 2 proclamations under special presentations. And bear with me. Our first is a proclamation of Missoula County and the City of Missoula, Montana County and Mayor Recognition Day for Homeless Persons Memorial Day. Whereas the winter poses extreme hardship for unsheltered and inadequately housed low-income individuals and families in Missoula, and whereas residents of Missoula will gather on the longest night of the year, December 21st, 2020, to honor and remember individuals experiencing homelessness who have died in our community and environs. And whereas since 1990, December 21st has been designated National Homeless Persons Memorial Day by the National Coalition for the Homeless and the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council, and is recognized by cities and states nationwide. And whereas in remembering those who have died without a home of their own, we keep urgent the cause of ending homelessness, the need for compassionate response, and the city and county's collective commitment to prevent such deaths in the future. Therefore, be it resolved that we, Josh Slotnick, David Strohmeyer, and Juanita Vero, Missoula County Commissioners, and John Engen, Mayor, do hereby recognize the 21st day of December 2020 as Homeless Persons Memorial Day. And I don't believe I'm not sure if there's anyone from the audience. If we were in person, sometimes there is a member of the audience who would like to speak to it. And I do see someone raising their hand. Hello, Jesse.
Hi, everybody. This is Jesse Jager with the Poverello Center. I just want to say that thank you for, again, doing this proclamation. We will be doing Homeless Persons Memorial Day again this next Monday. It's going to be a little different this year because of COVID-19, and we're going to be focusing on the gathering for those people experiencing homelessness right now to participate. There'll be gatherings at both the Poverello Center and the Johnson Street Emergency Winter Shelter. And then the community is asked to join us either via MCAT or Facebook live streaming. And then we're inviting community members also to light a candle in their window or on their front porch to acknowledge Homeless Persons Memorial Day at 5:30 on Monday the 21st, and would invite the city council and all elected officials to participate in that with us today. And I'll just say that as of right now, 25 people have died in Missoula County this year while experiencing homelessness. So this proclamation is deeply meaningful for our community to remember those that we have lost this past year. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for all your work and your colleagues' work in this area, Jesse. Couple brief council comments. Ms. Hart.
Thank you, Brian. Jesse, thank you for bringing that to our attention. A number of years ago, I was asked to serve on the Poverello board, and I did so because I've had a family member who has experienced homelessness, and it's not something that is necessarily one's fault. Many times circumstances just careen out of control, and that's how it ends up happening. You start couch surfing, living in your car, or just on the streets. And it's not something anyone deserves. And so I really appreciate that we have a proclamation recognizing those that we have lost in our community. And honestly, 25 people is far too many to lose. So speaking to what we had touched on a little bit earlier in terms of the Broadway Mullen Trinity project, that is, some folks may believe that we enable people to I don't know, live off the system, but in reality, we all benefit from making sure that we take care of those in our communities who need us to fight for them. So thank you, Jesse, for bringing this to our attention tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. I was hoping that Jesse could speak very quickly to where donations of hats and jackets and gloves could be dropped off.
That is a great idea. Jesse.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vasika. Yes, so we will absolutely take donations of gloves, hats, socks being also really important. Warm socks can be dropped off during business hours, so like 8 to 5 at the Poverello Center's main building, which is at 1110 West Broadway. We just ask people to come to the Cedar Street side of the building, someone could come out there and collect the donations from you. But we would absolutely appreciate those types of donations at this time. We go through a lot of them right now.
Great. Thank you. All right, I am going to move on to the other proclamation for this evening. Whereas public meetings are essential to the democracy and freedoms we enjoy as citizens of Missoula, and whereas the COVID-19 global pandemic challenged the city to change public meetings for city council and all the city's boards and commissions to a virtual environment, and whereas the staff who support and administer city virtual public meetings have adapted to the change and have admirably risen to the challenge, now therefore John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula in the state of Montana, join with the Missoula City Council hereby recognizing the 14th day of December 2020 as City of Missoula Administrative Support Day, and acknowledge the following people for their efforts in keeping the business of government moving during a critical period in our community's history. There is a long list of folks here, and I consulted a little bit with Marty. I'm going to not butcher your last names. I'm going to read your first names. Amanda, Art, Ashley, Betsy, Cassie, Kathy, Karina, Diana, Donna, Heather, Jill, Jody, Jolanda, Katie, Kendra, Kirsten, Lori, Leslie, Lisa, Megan, Michelle, Paisley, Sarah, Soraya, Heidi, and last but not least, Marty, Miss Rabine. In witness thereof, apologies, don't need to read that part. This today, the 14th day of December in the year 2020, City of Missoula Administrative Support Day. I cannot add my voice strongly enough in thanks to all the folks there. To say that the staff has risen to the challenge admirably would be the understatement of the year. So thank you. See a couple hands, Miss Merritt.
Yes, thank you to all the staff members who have made this possible. And we have all had to learn new things in this year of pandemic, but I would say the effort that staff has put to make these online meetings happen smoothly has been nothing short of Herculean. So Marty, thank you to you and your staff and all of the staff members from the other departments who help us make the Monday night meetings run and every Wednesday council meeting run, and all of the other boards and commissions that meet that have been able to continue to do so because of the hard work of staff. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I just want to echo the comments of my colleagues. This truly is work that goes underappreciated, and it's extremely important work. And we have such good folks that are dedicated public servants of the city of Missoula that are working day in and day out. Oftentimes, while we are remote, these folks who are supporting our meetings are masked up in the council chambers because they have to be there, and because that's where the equipment and the technology are. It's a group of really dedicated folks doing really good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe there's public comment on this, not seeing any. And again, thank you. We will continue with our agenda. This evening, we have 135 public hearings. Just kidding, after last Monday. We have no public hearings tonight. We do have final consideration on 5 items where a public hearing is continuing. Items listed under final consideration have had a public hearing. In the case of these items, the hearing is being concluded tonight. So the hearing was held open to allow additional time for additional public comment before final consideration and action by the City Council. The chairperson of the Standing City Council Committee will make a motion and will invite community comment on each item. Our first item is a resolution establishing water development fees and amending the sewer development fees, and an ordinance amending Missoula Municipal Code. And what I'd like to do with this, I see Dennis that you're on there. Is there any additional update from staff that you need to provide, recognizing that you gave the presentation at the onset of the public hearing? But is there anything you need to any new news or additional information?
Thanks, Brian. Dennis Bowman, Deputy Public Works Director for the utilities. No, I only received one call associated with this, and the resident was confused. They thought we were raising water rates. And after I explained it to her and her husband, she understood it and thanked the city for working through this to help out with developments, but at the same time, keeping the costs lower for the current residents.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Okay, so I will continue the public hearing now. This is a process we've used on several items like the budget and other things where we have held open a public hearing for additional time. So if there's anyone in the public who would like to take advantage of the opportunity to provide public comment on this item, please go ahead and raise your hand. Not seeing any, and so with that, I will close the public hearing. And before we get to a motion, are there any questions? Not the time for deliberations, but are there any questions from council members? Not seeing any, we will, I would entertain a motion from Ms. Becerra.
Thanks, Brian. I move that we adopt an ordinance amending Title 13, Missoula Municipal Code, Section 13.140, pertaining to collection of sewer development fees by amending the existing language to include water development fees and move all specific language and fees to the utility rate schedule effective 30 days after city council approval. And there's another motion. Would you like me to read it now or?
Let me, Ms. Rabine, is that okay? I would be inclined to do so if that's okay with you, Ms. Rabine.
Yeah, that's no problem. If you want to do both items at the same time, we can totally.
Yes, go ahead, Ms.
Great. So I also move that we adopt the resolution of the Missoula City Council amending the sewer development fees and establishing the water development fees and amending the utility rate schedule to include the sewer and water development fees. And may I speak briefly to that motion?
Those motions are in order, you may.
I just want to point out that as we continue to grow and develop our valley here in Missoula, it is incredibly important that we have these fees in order to equitably put the pressure, the financial pressure of development across the users of Missoula. So this would be development fees, not current ratepayers. And I think it's important that we keep in mind that while we need to address affordability of new development, we also need to keep in mind the affordability of the current users of the system. So I am very much in support of it. I think it's a sensible and reasonable fee. I want to thank our staff. Dennis has done an incredible job at balancing all these difficult aspects of development and creating a fee schedule. And thank you to the consultants, because I think they really gave us a lot to work with and a lot of information for us to base our decision. So I'll be in support of it.
Thank you. Mr. Ramos.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just want to speak briefly to this. I'm not going to be supporting this tonight for a variety of reasons. I do appreciate that it's not going to be impacting ratepayers. However, I still, we mentioned affordability, and having a rate hike of any kind during this time is really, really tough for me to swallow. I do think that Dennis has done a really good job of trying to make it as small of a hit as possible, and I do appreciate that. But for me, we're seeing companies across the board make do what they have during this time, especially during COVID. And I think that the city could do that if they looked a little bit deeper. Again, I've said for a long time that we do not have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. And I do think that there are some various areas that we could improve upon where we don't have to raise these right now. So also, yes, more people coming to Missoula, which also means more people paying premiums, paying water rates. There's various different ways that we can move around our capital investments in order to essentially lever up using those various types of increases that we're going to be seeing as revenue. So with all respect, I'm not going to be supporting the motion tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Cheryl.
Thanks. I actually am going to be supporting the motion, and I appreciate what my colleague had said, Ms. Becerra, about sensible and reasonable rate increases, because I do believe that that's the case. I also, Mr. Bowman, thank you for your presentation last week. I thought it was very thorough, and also I appreciated you said something in that that we're concerned about affordable housing, but we're also concerned about affordable living. And I just appreciated the reasonable, thoughtful approach to setting these rates. So.
Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Thanks. I'll just quickly add, I'm in favor of this tonight. I think Mr. Bowman's done a great job of finding the sweet spot. in terms of balancing affordable housing, in terms of the new costs that come with that new development versus putting the cost of that new development onto the remainder of the community. And someone's going to have to pay for it one way or the other when new construction goes in and there's new infrastructure that needs to be installed in terms of sewer and water and all of this. So to find that sweet spot of how do we balance it so that it is not too onerous for new development, yet on the other hand, someone who's been living here for 60 years just can't continue to pay each and every time for new development. So it's a real balancing act, and that's the analysis that goes into it. We're a growing community, and so that's why we put a lot of thought into this, hire consultants and experts in the field to give us the best advice, and then we take it. And what Mr. Bowman did was really tweaked it to make it work for the Missoula community, so that because we know best what's going to work here. So thanks, Mr. Bowman, and looking forward to getting some more houses built.
All right, not seeing any additional hands for council deliberations. We have had a public hearing. We have motions. We will have a roll call vote.
Okay, and this is on both the resolution and the ordinance. Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
No.
Herb,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
No.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
No.
Van Lossberg,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 9 ayes and 3 nays.
Thank you. Our next item under final consideration is Community Development Block Grant COVID Funds Round 3 allocation. This is in Administration and Finance. Is there any additional information from staff that needs to be presented before we conclude the public hearing? Hello, Ms. Armstrong.
There is not. I think we're all set. Thank you.
Great, thank you. With that, the public hearing remains open. Is there any additional public comment on this item where the public hearing started last week? And I see one hand in the audience. Jesse, you should be able to talk now.
Right, great. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody at the city, for partnering with the Poverello Center to work out emergency winter shelter. A special shout out actually to Emily and Karen in the grants office. We had a lot of back and forth to figure all this out, and I just want to say a big thank you to them. Last week we told you we were serving about 80 people a night. Over this past week, that's grown to averaging to about 100 people a night being served over at the Johnson Street Emergency Winter Shelter. And so it is a need that is certainly growing as the weather gets colder. So thank you all for your partnership as we've worked together to make sure that everybody in our community has a warm place to be as it gets colder this winter.
Thank you, Jesse. Any additional public comment on this item? Not seeing any. With that, I will close the public hearing. Are there any questions from council members? Not seeing any questions. I believe this lives in Administration and Finance. Ms. Jones?
Yes, I would like to make the recommended motion, which is to adopt a resolution of the City Council awarding Home Investment Partnership Program, Community Development Block Grant, and Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act Community Development Block Grant funds to certain organizations and directing staff to negotiate contracts and agreements with said organizations. And I'd like to speak to it briefly.
That motion's in order. You may.
Thank you. So just to recap it briefly, with this pandemic, our normal structures that we have in place, such as the Poverello to house homeless people during the winter, the capacity greatly needed to be expanded because, as we all know, you cannot have a lot of people in one small space. So as a result, the Poverello and staff, city and county, have done a lot of heavy lifting to greatly increase that capacity with the Johnson Street facility. And these additional federal funds help greatly to financially make it all work. This is a hard year, and these are the tools that we have to make it work to get through this winter. So I'm very much in favor of it, and thank you to all of the people that were involved in all of the planning that went into creating the pivot to make this work as we headed into winter. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Additional council comment on the motion? Not seeing any. I will quickly, Ms. Merritt.
Sorry, I'm being slow on the right hand raise. Yeah, this is just another one of those small steps that we've been able to take. There's the problem of homelessness is just takes all of these pieces coming together to try and make sure that people are protected as much as we can. So thank you, Jesse Jager, for being here tonight from the Poverello Center, and thanks to staff for working with them to make this happen. I'm super glad that we got these funds and that we're able to support the Johnson Street Center with these funds. Thanks.
Thanks. Not seeing any other hands up. Quickly add my thanks. I've been intimately involved with Emergency Winter Shelter for the last several years from council, and I believe it was, I think, in March or April of this year, before the winter was open, that we started thinking about this winter that we're currently in, recognizing what we were likely going to be faced with the pandemic and the reduced capacity at the POV. And sometimes in those meetings through the summer and such, you have to take a bit of a leap of faith that you're going to find the solutions if you keep looking hard enough for them. And thanks to great partners in the community and great staff, we were able to do that. So thank you to all. This has my full support. We have had a public hearing. We have a motion, and we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, on the motion, Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And Becerra.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That's 12 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. Our next two items are budget related. The first is resolution for second round of amendments to amend the annual appropriations for the city of Missoula, Montana, as set forth in the fiscal year 2021 budget and capital improvement program. Ms. Griffin, is there any additional information from staff that needs to be communicated?
No changes from last week. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that, I will continue the public hearing that started last week. Is there any public comment during the public hearing on this item? Not seeing any hands up among attendees. Are there any questions about this item from council members? Not seeing any questions. This also lives in A&F. Ms. Jones.
I will make the recommended motion that we adopt a resolution for fiscal year 2021 quarter 1B amendments to the annual appropriations for the city of Missoula, Montana, as set forth in the fiscal year 2021 budget, that increases the total city revenues by $732,096 and budgeted appropriations by $1,715,585 in order to recognize additional grant revenues, activities, and expenses for fiscal year 2021.
That motion is in order. Is there any council deliberation? Don't you all rush to raise your hand. Seeing none, we have had a public hearing. We have a motion in order. We will have a roll call vote.
On the resolution to amend the budget, Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Basika,
Yes.
Von Osberg,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
and Contos.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That's 12 ayes.
Thank you. 3 down, 2 to go. Next item, 9.4, resolution for year-end closeout fiscal year 2020 budget amendments. This resolution amends the fiscal year 2020 budget to appropriate expenditures and budget transfers not identified in the original budget. Same question, Ms. Griffin, any new or additional information that needs to be communicated?
No, there is not.
Thank you. With that, I will continue the public hearing that started last week. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And are there any questions from council members before going to a motion? Seeing none, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I will make the recommended motion that we adopt a resolution amending the annual appropriations for the city of Missoula, Montana, as set forth in the fiscal year 2020 budget that increases the total city budget by $4,036,492.17 and increases revenues by $823,829.28 in order to recognize revenues and expenditures arising from audit adjustments and other activities through the end of the fiscal year. And I'll speak briefly to it.
The motion's in order, you may.
Okay, I just wanted to acknowledge that we see these budget amendments come through every quarter. And I wanted to thank Lee for the great preparation. She lays it out. It's always so logical. There's all sorts of money in and money out that comes from grants and different expenditures. And she has all of that documentation attached always. So it's pretty self-explanatory, and just wanted to acknowledge that. And if there were issues, we'd comment on them, but there aren't because it's really straightforward. So thanks, Lee.
Thank you. Any additional council deliberation? Okay, seeing none, we have had a public hearing. We have a motion in order. We'll have a roll call vote.
Okay, on the budget resolution, budget amendment resolution, Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Basika,
Yes.
Von Osberg,
Yes.
Oh, I'm warm already.
West,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
and Hart.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 12 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you. And our final item under final consideration this evening. I always start talking and worried I'm on mute. Is Mullen Area Neighborhoods Master Plan and ordinance establishing a form-based code to implement the plan. SWIP Tipcane, I apologize, my bad pronunciation, should have used for the naming. Is there any additional information, Mr. Zavitz, that staff would like to update council and the public on?
We got, I guess, one comment during the meeting last week from Katie Ward, and we addressed those comments. Some of them were on some minor language changes, clarifications, and a request to add in a use into the airport, the EAD zone in one of the transects. So a fairly minor adjustment there that made sense, and that they had been the landowners had been talking about since the very beginning of the project. We got another comment from David Gray, kind of late on some details in the plan, and we just were not able to address those at this late date. However, as I will be telling him, we should be doing a review of this within the year and correcting any mistakes or making adjustments to the plan and code at that time. And there was a letter from the Missoula Home Coalition, which I don't know if you all have read that, but supported most of the steps that we are taking with this plan, and wishing that we had addressed, or well, we did address it, but wishing that we would have added in inclusionary zoning. However, we've been over this several times, and the latest and newest housing plan does not recommend that we do that or use that tool at this time. I'm sure we'll be reviewing that type of tool in the future, but as for now, we're not.
Okay, so I will continue the public hearing at this point. I do see one hand up, couple hands up in the audience, so I will go to those. This is an opportunity for continued public comment. And Rob Pietkowski, bear with me. I think you should be able to talk now. Rob, are you there? You're unmuted now, Rob, so we should be able to hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
We are. Yep, thank you.
Microphone troubles. My name is Rob Pietkowski with Dover Cohen Partners, working with Tom Zavitz on plan. So just wanted to let you know that I am in attendance and available to take comments or answer any questions, and able to share my screen with any content from the plan or code that you may be interested in.
Great, thank you. Aaron Miller, you should be able to unmute yourself now. There we go.
Yeah, hey, hello. My name is Erin Miller. I'm the statewide organizing manager for Forward Montana, but I'm submitting the public comment tonight on behalf of the entire Missoula Home Coalition. Like Mr. Zavitz said, we submitted the our full statement comment in writing earlier today, but wanted to say that, upon review of the Seward-Tipcane Area Neighborhoods Master Plan and the Office of Housing and Community Development statement on that plan, the Missoula Home Coalition is in support of the OHCD statement and the Planning for Affordability recommendations in the report. We are in full and enthusiastic support of the report's goal that a specific number of platted lots could be required to be donated to a local land trust to ensure a defined number of units of deed or lease restricted units. We are also excited to see the approach of a form-based code and the potential impact that will have on creating more diverse and equitable housing. In addition, we would like to see more private sector developers engaged as partners in the creation of affordable homes. We recommend that in the future build out of this plan and also other future large scale development in neighborhood or master plans, that this legislative body consider that a mandatory percentage of affordable units be included as a requirement, which could be determined and defined in the ongoing and involving municipal procedures and appropriately legislative initiatives related to housing affordability in the future. We just believe it will be a missed opportunity if future growth does not require creation of a set percentage of permanently affordable homes as a partnership from all possible sectors. We feel that is how we as a community can create the needed development capacity to supply homes that are truly affordable. So we look forward to working on this together in future discussions, planning and development, and just thank you so much for your all's work. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller. Not seeing any additional public comment. I will close the public hearing. And are there any further questions from council members? Not seeing any questions. I will move to the committee chair, Mr. Hess for a motion.
Thanks, Mr. Bryan. I'll make both motions at once if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I move that on second and final reading, we adopt an ordinance of the Missoula City Council establishing Title 21, Chapter 1, Missoula Municipal Code to implement a traditional neighborhood development form-based code for the area located generally north of Mullen Road, west of North Reserve Street, south of West Broadway, and east of the Missoula International Airport. And also that we adopt a resolution to adopt the Swatipkane Neighborhood Master Plan for the area generally located north of Mullen Road, west of North Reserve Street, south of West Broadway, and east of the Missoula International Airport. The plan, as an amendment to the Our Missoula City Growth Policy 2035, replacing the Y Mullen West Comprehensive Area Plan and Map, including a map amendment to the future land use designation map. And may I speak to the motions?
Please do. Those motions are in order. Please do.
Great. So, you know, we've talked about this plan a lot over the last few months, so I'll keep my remarks brief tonight. I want to say that this plan and the associated zoning really build on our long-held planning objectives. This plan supports the goals of the growth policy, and it enables us to implement our housing policy. It creates zoning, which in turn creates opportunities to build innovative types of housing. And this plan goes hand in glove with our housing policy. It is an implementation tool of our housing policy in a lot of ways. So I think that the form-based code is really exciting. It creates zoning that regulates building on form rather than on function. And that'll allow us to create vibrant, livable neighborhoods in this area. It's really, you know, it's a clean slate opportunity. So I believe that we've really seized the opportunity to get this right. I think this is a thoughtful plan that will really enable high quality development in this area. So I'm really pleased to support the plan. I want to take a moment to just mention what a feat it was for Tom Zavitz with the city and Andrew Hegemeyer with the county and all of the other staff, the team at Dover Coal, to pull off a really innovative planning process during the pandemic. I remember the launch of this really well because it coincided with my birthday, which was kind of a quiet, lonely, stay-at-home kind of birthday in March, and this plan was pivoted to an online process in a matter of days, really. I mean, the planning process went from contemplating an in-person charrette-style planning process to an online engagement incredibly quickly and incredibly effectively. It became a national model that other planning processes have followed, and that's something that we should be proud of, that the city of Missoula led such an innovative planning effort that other jurisdictions followed suit throughout the pandemic. So. And on top of that, it's a good plan and the content is good. So all those things together, I'm proud to support the plan, and I encourage you all to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Thanks. As Jordan said, it is a good plan, and I'm really happy to speak to it tonight. I remember when I first got on council 5 years ago, one of my constituents, an architect, gave me a book on form-based code. So he said, "Here, you should read this. This is really interesting stuff. We need to do this." And at the time I thought, this is great, but I couldn't even see a way forward because this is really the next generation of zoning. And this is what forward-thinking communities are using. And so the fact that we now have this holistic plan in place based on form-based code is just super exciting. And if you ask me, that's pretty fast for government. So I'm really happy about it. I just wanted to kind of hit a few high points. I think this is a huge paradigm shift, and I know there's going to be a learning curve for developers and for our permitting department and all of the people who are going to have to learn how to use this plan and the form-based code. But my understanding is once people work through it, it's actually a much faster, simpler process, which is something we've been hearing from the development community for years, that simpler, faster is better and helps get housing built and helps keep those costs down. So that's a huge component of this. I appreciate the fact, as Tom mentioned, that if we run into glitches or issues, we're going to be able to fix those. We can take a look at it every year. That's what we do with our Title 20 cleanup, and we can improve it. But this is just a great, strong step forward. I love the fact that there is density, much more density, but also density thoughtfully spread out in different levels throughout the entire development. So it's not segregated or isolated, but it's incorporated. And I think that makes for much better development. And frankly, that is the best model we could have for having affordable housing throughout this entire area. So as Jordan was saying, it really does feed into our housing policy. And I think the fact to have had this opportunity to create much greater connectivity and traffic flow by having a holistic plan is wonderful. I represent Ward 3, which has some of the oldest infrastructure in town. And we're constantly trying to figure out how to make that old infrastructure work in the 20th century. So to plan this from the bottom up and have it looked at holistically so we get it right from the beginning is just such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I'm really excited about it. So I'm very happy to support it, and we're going to make it better in the long run if we need to. But thanks, Tom Zavitz from the city and Andrew from the county. You guys did some really heavy lifting, and I so appreciate that. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Ms. Becerra.
Thank you. I think many of you know that for a long time I have advocated for a land use plan in this area that could help us guide development, particularly as the bill grant process was being finalized. I think any land use plan needs to work in tandem with transportation, any transportation related project, but particularly for one of this magnitude, it's incredibly important. I think many of us were not sure what to expect from this project, as many developments were happening while this plan was being developed. And I am so impressed with the comprehensiveness of this plan. It provides us with big concept ideas such as neighborhood character and design, to the nitty-gritty such as the benefits of using bioswales. I also think that any national recognition to the public process delivered by the consultant is very well deserved. So many informative videos and ways to provide public engagement during a pandemic is truly commendable. I also think that the fact that this plan is accompanied by a form-based code will make this plan relevant, context sensitive, and effective at realizing the vision for this area. And that vision is something that this community is setting forth. And that vision is one of more housing diversity, and that can truly be accomplished with this type of zoning. So, I think that the application of a form-based code in this area will serve as an example of the benefits of a non-Euclidean zoning code, and how it could potentially perform in a larger geographical area. So I am very supportive and looking forward to seeing it unfold in real life. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, I think I inadvertently took your hand down. Did you wish, you were next in line?
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the comments of so many of my fellow council members. I too will be supporting this. I love the fact that we really made some great lemonade out of some of the lemons that the COVID gave us. And, you know, the fact that Missoula is continually setting the bar and kind of in this situation, we got to set it on the national stage of how to have a really inclusive, diverse planning session in the midst of COVID. And I actually think the product was richer and was able to have a much broader scope, and therefore I think has come together with a really amazing product. I think it's really important, you know, I have been known to say that the land factory is closed. We are not making any more, and we need to utilize the land that we do have for development to the highest and best use. And what I love so much about this project is it is so much more of a holistic, comprehensive neighborhood plan that thinks about all the various different aspects versus just a subdivision here, a townhome here, and it really thinks about all of the things that make community and places to gather and transportation and various forms of living and the services that you need. And given that land is so precious here in the Missoula Valley and that we need to be utilizing it to the highest and best use, this plan just checks all those boxes and has brought together a wide variety of ideas. And I think that process really shows in the end product. And I just hats off to Dover Coal. Thank you for being our kind of partner with this, and along with the city and the county and everyone who participated from all the various organizations. I think that we should be really proud of this process. And I'm glad that we get to be held up as the model of how to do something like this, despite a global pandemic where we can't meet in person. So thank you so much for everyone and your hard work. I'm super excited to support this and look forward to seeing how it comes to fruition and the people who get to call this plan home eventually someday.
Thank you. Ms. Hart.
Thank you. I'd say over the last 5 years, we really have witnessed the median price of homes skyrocket, roughly about 62%. And back in 2015, that was $238,000, and now it stands at $385,000. If we were to take that same percentage and multiply that forward, in 5 years, we would be staring down at a new median price of $625,000. That is just absolutely shocking to me, and it's going to happen if we do nothing to actually slow the pace. And while this is good for those of us who are actually holding on to real estate, it presents problems that here at City Council, we hear a lot about. Property taxes going up and more people being pushed out of Missoula and out of their homes. And I, for one, refuse to concede that there is nothing we can do to prevent prices from careening out of control. So form-based code, while it's not a silver bullet nor a panacea to solving our housing crisis, it does provide an alternative to our land use zoning code. And in fact, it does so by taking a page out of history. And it's no doubt you've noticed that many downtowns consist of at least 2 stories and typically 5. And it's because entrepreneurial pioneers of the past had to be smart with their limited resources by building structures that serve multiple sources or purposes. So they worked on the first floor, lived on the second, rented out the third. And so with one foundation, they were able to provide both an income as well as a roof to sleep under. And this live above where you work is an ancient model, but one that we had opted to leave behind with the advent of the automobile. And that is how we ended up with a lot of the zoning that we have today, because it's so auto-centric. I'm not saying that cars are bad, but it's just something that we have to pay attention to. And as a result of all of that, we fast forward to today where we know as we really do have a housing crisis on our hands. So form-based code provides developers a nifty tool for their utility belt, and that is flexibility. Flexibility to better use their financial resources while building more sustainably. Flexibility to share walls, floors, and ceilings on one foundation reduces both concrete and cost. Sharing walls makes a difference on both sustainability and cost, and it simplifies the development process. If these kinds of risks are reduced, we can create a win-win. And form-based code is a hybrid of our various past approaches to zoning. It encourages revitalization of neighborhoods It solves interrelated problems. It promotes affordable housing with more missing middle housing types. It supports small businesses, something that we really got to pay attention to, and promotes healthier lifestyles via walkability, preserves and captures a sense of place, and we can actually stop regulating the wrong things for a change. And with that, I will be very much supporting form-based code because I believe it's going to actually make a real difference in solving our affordability concerns.
Thank you, Ms. West.
Thank you. I think most of the really great things about what this form-based zoning code has to offer have been highlighted already. I just am in full support of this. I think it's a really exciting opportunity to really build a neighborhood that's based on livability on a human scale, and it allows a lot of creativity, whether that's the uses within structures or how streets are designed or how we are dealing with stormwater runoff. I think it's just a really exciting space to be working in. I will say that I do think that this is going to increase the diversity of homes being on the market and probably also broaden the price points. I don't think it's going to solve all of our problems, and I don't think it's, is it intended to do that? There will still be gas, and there will still be gas and that's true across our community, and I think that that is, things that we are still working on defining. The gaps might end up being different here from the rest of the community, but there will be future tools to also, address those needs. So I think this is an amazing basis, and I'm excited to see what will be built, how it will be realized. So thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Your audio was going out in and out a little bit at the end, but I think it worked out okay. Ms. Cheryl.
Yeah, I agree with Heidi. I think most of the points about form-based code have been made, but I do want to just thank Dover Cole for a great job, and also just for, being flexible and creative in this time of a pandemic. I also just want to thank everyone that has participated in this process, because I know that it's been a number of people. This is an opportunity to use the finite resource of land to plan a great livable neighborhood, to add to the housing that we desperately need in this community. So for those reasons, I will happily be supporting it.
Thank you. Not seeing any additional hands up. We have had a public hearing. We have motions in order. We will have a roll call vote.
Okay, and this is on both that ordinance and the resolution. And we start this round with Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Came out quick, yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Pontos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That's 12 ayes.
Thank you, and that passes unanimously. Bear with me. All right, that concludes our items under final consideration. I'll use the agenda slot for communications from the mayor to just briefly say thank you to everyone. I want to thank all the members of city staff, every department, for everything that they have done and continue to do throughout the year under incredibly challenging circumstances. We're not through this yet. There's some really good news today with the initial deliveries of vaccine, but there's a ways to go, but perhaps good to say light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to thank everyone, city staff, and I want to thank everyone throughout the community, including folks at, our partner institutions and organizations around town. Started attending with many of my colleagues countless coordination meetings involving the city, the county, the school district, the independent schools, the university, the health department, Mountain Lion, you name it. And I apologize for those I'm leaving out. Emergency response. And I think people would take great comfort from witnessing the care for the community displayed by every single individual associated with any of those organizations, and the collaboration relative to problem solving and just helping our fellow community members. And that certainly is happening across the country as well. But I want to thank everybody and thank all of you, my colleagues, for your service this past year under, as we've said a number of times, very challenging circumstances. With that, I will start recognizing folks via the squares on my screen. So, Mr. Contos.
Thank you, I'm fine.
All right, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian, for referencing the meetings that have been held on a regular basis ever since this pandemic started. I think it's a great example of collaboration and cooperation. And I guess the one thing I kind of wanted to focus on is this has been a difficult year, and this pandemic has highlighted different issues in our society and in our community that desperately need attention. And we knew they were there before, but it is very heightened. And not only with healthcare issues, economic issues, unemployment, businesses having great difficulties. Housing is just a huge issue. And Missoula, due to what a wonderful place we are, we've got a lot of people moving here. So we have been talking about housing and affordable housing issues for years on council. We've laid a strong base. The pandemic heightened this issue. I think it remains to be seen a year from now to what degree we will go back to just our regular affordable housing issues compared to what the last few months have heightened it to. But I think it's important for people in Missoula to know that this is something that City Council talks about, evaluates, analyzes. We get good people on it from staff and other experts to continually figure out what our next steps are. And it is important that federal and state government also weigh in on that. But I just think it's important to communicate. We're going to keep working on it. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. As we finish up this meeting, this is finishing up my first year here on council, and I have loved every minute of it. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the staff and all of my colleagues here on council. I know we don't always agree, but I really appreciate all the help that you guys have been giving me, all the guidance and all the answers to the questions that I have. I really do appreciate that. And I hope that you all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a happy and safe New Year.
Thank you. Ms. Hart.
I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all of you for being such wonderful colleagues. And I hope we really recognize how much we learn from one another. This has been a really difficult year for a whole host of reasons. And there's been just this huge chasm of distrust. And what I really do appreciate is how much we are willing to listen to one another with respect and recognize that we come from different paths. We know different things, and we try to inform one another and try and make the best decisions for this community we all so very much treasure. I would like to thank staff in particular for really doing an yeoman's work, really, in terms of really trying to keep us all together, because it has been an incredible puzzle to really kind of make this all fit together. And lastly, I would really like to just thank the community at large. The generosity every one of you have really expressed through, whether it's through Missoula Gives or Small Business Saturdays, all of that really helps to weave our community back together. Whether you work for a nonprofit, you are a sole proprietor in the private sector, you work in government, or you're an educator or at a healthcare provider, all of you matter. And for that, I really do appreciate that. If any of you suffer from any form of mental health concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to the county's task force on mental health and behavioral health issues. I know for a lot of folks during the holidays, it's tough to begin with, and then you throw COVID on top of it, and it really does get even tougher. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Merritt.
Oh, thanks. I want to echo everything that folks have already said. Happy Hanukkah to those who are celebrating the Festival of Light. And it's been a tough year, but here we are at the end of it. I want to also thank my colleagues we've continued to do the hard work of making decisions and trying our best to make this a better community. I look forward to working with you all again in the coming year. So Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year. And I will put in just one final plug here for the year. The Missoula high school kids are still doing speech and debate this year, even though they're doing it all virtually. And they are in need of judges for this coming weekend. You can judge from the comfort of your own home because it is all virtual. So if you are interested and willing to spend a couple of hours out of your weekend, either Friday evening or any time of the day on Saturday, to help them out, go to MissoulaSpeechandDebate.com. That's all spelled out. And there's instructions for how to sign up to be a judge. So thank you all very much and look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you. Ms. Cheryl.
Thanks, and thanks to all my colleagues for their words. And as you've said, this is our last meeting of the year. And as Sandra said, it's the end of my first year on council as well. It has been a very strange first year and very strange and challenging period in history. As for the pandemic, I do see a light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine distribution, but at the same time, I'm very worried about reaching the full fallout from it and what our community is going to look like on the other side. It will not have made the housing issues any easier. Many families in our community are going to be grieving and continue grieving. And inevitably, there will be businesses, many that we love, that will close. So that being said, I'm proud of what this council has done over the past year. We saw an epidemic in the midst of a pandemic, and we passed an ordinance to restrict flavored vape products in an effort to protect our youth. I'm proud that we did that. Early in the pandemic, we proactively, amongst much criticism, bought the Sleepy Inn as a non-congregate shelter. This was not only needed to curb the spread of COVID, but has shown to be a savvy financial move, as well as what I believe will in the future show to have been an important strategic move in our ongoing effort to get more affordable housing. We invested in a mobile crisis unit with trained professionals that will serve those having mental health issues. That I think has just gotten up and running recently. We bought a mountain that will not only provide additional trails for our community, but will also serve as a wildfire buffer for our neighborhoods and an important wildlife corridor. We established and began funding the Housing Trust Fund. That was many years before my time in the planning, but I am really, really proud of that and that we moved forward on that. And we passed a budget that invested in community health, housing, police training, and will work to move us toward a more racially just community. There are lots of words that come to mind to describe 2020, some of them which I probably shouldn't say, but I will say that it has just been challenging. But I feel confident that we will work as a group to take care of our community and to mitigate the damage in the ways that we are able. In this crazy time, I could not be more thankful to live here in this town, to work with the city staff and the other council people that care about this place and to be part of our community. So thank you to my constituents for believing and putting their trust in me, and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Ms. West.
Oh, man. I am going to give a shameless plug to a project I'm working on right now. So some of you, everyone on council, but maybe not in the public, knows that I'm working on fundraising for Project Westside Park, which is raising funds for the park and playground that's adjoining Lowell Elementary School. So we are in a tail end of a holiday party. Is my speaker working okay?
No. I was just going to interrupt you. Sorry, Heidi. It goes okay for a while and then it starts staccato or sort of.
I'm not sure what's going on. Just skip me.
Support. I'm going to intercede and say support Heidi's project for Project Westside Park. It's super important. These are the cards that she's holding up that she made. The first time my daughter saw one, when I showed it to her over text message, she was, I wish I could have video recorded her response. It also made me realize that I would never be 1/10 as talented as Heidi. So support Heidi's project. Sorry, Heidi. Miss Anderson.
Thank you, Brian. And yes, support Heidi's project to build a park at Lowell Elementary School. Definitely a good place to put some of your holiday charity dollars. I want to thank Ms. Jones and many others for talking about housing. I hope most of you all saw the Missoulian editorial article about kind of highlighting some of the projects that we have done. I think that some of the work we do is not sexy and doesn't necessarily get headlines, but it's methodical and purposeful, and it does make an impact in the short and long term. We have a comprehensive program or comprehensive plan to help guide us with a place called Home, which is our comprehensive affordable housing plan. Within, even tonight, we allocated dollars to the Trinity Project, which is a really large project that would not have come together without the help of the county donating that land and the public-private partnership that's going to go in that will make a difference in the lives of the people who live there and those who access services. As Ms. Cheryl highlighted, we stood up a mobile crisis unit, which is needed in our community, but they also need that place to hand off those people in crisis, and the Trinity Project will be able to provide that for folks. We have the Villaggio apartments on the north side that will be built, the YWCA Meadowlark Family Project. We continue to have the folks at the POV providing services for those unhoused in our community. We stood up the Johnson Street temporary winter shelter so that the people who are unhoused in our community can do so safely and at a social distance. And then there is the temporary safe outdoor shelter, which is on public land, and it's a partnership with some of the folks in the faith-based community as well as the nonprofit community to provide a more structured place for those folks who do not feel comfortable in this time living indoors. To that point, I do really want to direct folks who have questions about the temporary safe outdoor shelter, which is located in the county, across, if you're going out Highway 93, just over the bridge in a big empty plot of land. There will be a community meeting on Wednesday at noon, and it's via Zoom, so anyone can join, and it'll be over the lunch hour. So folks who have questions can join. It's being hosted by the Joint City County COVID Information Task Force, because that's how some grant funding was able to get this project stood up, was through this task force. And the on-site providers, which is the Hope Rescue Mission, will be there to answer any questions. Adrian Beck from the County Emergency Services will be on hand to answer your questions. Susan Hay-Patrick from the United Way will be participating to answer questions on how they helped sort of get the logistics of this up and going. So for anyone in the community, many of my constituents who've had concerns about what it is that this temporary safe outdoor shelter looks like, I really encourage you to join the community meeting on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday at noon. You can find all the information on how to join in on the Zoom link for that on the city's website. It's right there in the mid-page left corner. And you should be able to join that. And I think it'll be a really good information session to help kind of explain what this project is, what it's not, and how it kind of fits into the overall need that we have in our community for these folks during this, cold winter in a global pandemic. And to that end, I have sort of found myself at various points in our council meetings during council comments, highlighting the fact that, the number of people who have lost their life due to COVID. And I will say that yesterday, when I saw the images of the trucks leaving the Pfizer plant in Michigan, I teared up because it was such a moment of relief that the end was in sight, as many of my colleagues have highlighted tonight. But I was listening to an epidemiologist today talk about, the rollout and how long it will be till the majority of all of us have access to this. And he said that we are entering a time where we're, it's a biblical reference, but walking in the valley of the shadow of death. That is going to be our winter. And it just really put into perspective to me that, yes, we had this great news of this vaccine being rolled out, but due to the numbers and all the various logistics, it's going to be a long, hard winter for us, and that we can't let our guard down. And I spoke with you all about the number of folks who would be celebrating Thanksgiving, or the number of families who had lost loved ones and that they would be missing someone for Thanksgiving. And the Monday before Thanksgiving, the statewide death toll here in Montana from COVID-19 was 614. Today, with still 2 weeks to go, pretty much till Christmas, we're at 818. It's 204 more families have lost somebody. And nationwide, we are at 300,000 people who have died of COVID-19. To put that in perspective, that's like the city of Pittsburgh. I don't say this because I enjoy these grim numbers. I say this because at some point in time, I want these numbers to shock people enough and sadden them enough to do the right thing. We as a country have just decided to let herd immunity be what the course is, and that people are fighting mask mandates and protesting health administrators' houses for just doing their jobs to try to keep us safe, so that no more people have to spend a holiday without a loved one. And that hit especially close to home with my best friend having to attend her grandmother's funeral via a Facebook Live. Catherine Stahlbommer is now one of the 300,000 people in this country who has lost their life to COVID-19. So please keep those families in your thoughts and continue. Those of you who are doing all the right things, thank you so much. Please continue to do so. For those of you who don't think this is a big deal, I hope at some point in time, these numbers shock you into doing the right thing and keeping everyone in our community safe. So thank you. I went a little long tonight, but I appreciate all of you and hope you all have a happy holiday season, and that soon we will all be together again, and this horrific time will be in the rearview mirror. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Mr. Ramos.
Thank you, Brian. I wasn't going to say anything, but less feeling like a Scrooge since all my colleagues said such wonderful things. I will just say that it's been certainly an interesting year on council. certainly something that I had to grow in myself. It's very, very, as Ms. Anderson said, very, very tragic times for our nation. And for me, it's been an interesting role. Certainly trying to limit the number of deaths as much as possible, and certainly keeping an eye on that. And trying to do the best we can, but also trying to keep an eye on government overreach as well as government response to this pandemic, which, I mean, I know some of my colleagues might not think that this is a legitimate thing, but we look at any past war, any past crisis, the government always uses it as a way to strip us further of our liberties and rights. So it is a very, very real threat, as well as the virus, not downplaying the virus at all. Lady Rona had me in her clutches as well. Unfortunately enough, I was able to make it out of that. But it's just been a pleasure serving with you all. And I hope that we all have a great holiday season, and Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays to all.
Thank you. Ms. Becerra.
Thank you. You know, no doubt this has been a very difficult and challenging year for all of us. I think in one way or another, we have all been affected by the pandemic. Some of us have not seen our family members in well over a year. Many have lost jobs, and far too many have lost loved ones. But I think most of us have gained something, and that is perspective. We have learned to value what's important. We have learned to adjust. We have learned to be patient, humble, and more tolerant. And hopefully we have all learned that we need to work together to rebuild what's broken. I can't wait to start the new year, and not just because of the pandemic, or to put the pandemic behind me, but also because I'm looking forward to putting into practice all those things that we have learned, to be collaborative, to be creative in our approach to solutions, and above all, to be respectful. I think even when we disagree on how to move forward, respect is paramount. So I look forward to the new year, to new and renewed collaborations, to a new start on making progress on important issues that have only been exacerbated by this pandemic. I want to thank everyone who participated in the many, many virtual meetings that we held. I know it wasn't easy, but I really value the perspective that our community brings to all our meetings. Thanks to all of you for all you do, to all the staff. They keep the city going. And as Ms. Anderson said, you know, the light is at the end of the tunnel, but don't let your guard down. I'm looking forward to working with all of you next year. I want you healthy, and I want you there. So with that, thank you again. Happy holidays, and looking forward to a better year. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hess.
Thanks. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. See you next year.
Thank you, Jordan. I have to go back to our agenda. We have no items under committee reports, no items under new business. Are there any additional items to be referred? Seeing none. Are there any miscellaneous communications, petitions, reports, and announcements? Seeing none. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your service. Thank you to those in the public for participating. We are adjourned.